There's a strange kind of loss that nobody really prepares you for in life. It's not the loss of a person or a pet, but it's the loss of a story. Maybe it's a book series you've followed for years or a TV show that has truly become part of your routine on a daily or even a weekly basis. It could even be an artist whose work helped you define a chapter of your life. Recently, for me, this was Destiny. For over a decade, me and my good friend and fellow artist MK Gibson were huge fans of the Destiny franchise. We followed the story through every expansion, every mystery, every major plot development. And now, it's just over. The story that has been a constant for years has finally reached an end. And I must say that I'm pretty bummed about that. Because when something you've invested literally thousands of hours in, and it comes to an end, it leaves behind this strange sort of emptiness. And that all got me thinking, why does the ending of a great story feel so much like grief? Why do we bargain for sequels or deny that it's really over? Why do we feel angry about the choices that were made or sink into that strange emptiness afterwards? Until, eventually we find ourselves accepting that the journey is complete. Why do the endings of our favorite stories seem to push us through the 5 stages of grief? Let's talk about it in another Butcher Shop. Now, before I start crying in this pile of paper handkerchiefs that I have ready here, how are you doing, sir?
Crying. I'm well, but I'm interested about these tears you have. Like, all right, let's I want to unpack that. So thank you for asking. I'm good. How have you been? Since we talked earlier today, and for the sake of the narrative, like, ooh, the mystery. So for the lies, Sandy, for the lies, how are you doing? What's new?
Well, obviously, I'm very sad for the show. I'm sad because my favorite game has ended, and we have not talked about this at all, in any previous conversation. This is going to be new for both of us, so that's why I said I have these handkerchiefs ready. I'm like ready to shed all my tears. And
I get it. No, we've mentioned it on the show a few times that we're both big fans of Destiny, and for those who may or may not know, yes, the game with the Bungie came out and announced that we're done. We've reached a point. We're not going to produce anymore. The stuff that we're going to produce, we're going to stop. We're going to put out this one kind of major not update, but like kind of a life state of game, a sandbox, kind of like a play update or a bunch of
the position we put the body in before we put it into a coma.
Yeah, we're not making anything new. We will maintain it for a period of time. The servers will be on, play it as you see fit, but there's nothing new coming. The story is over, etc., etc., etc. And for when we talk about this in the past, like, we've both loved this game. It has meant so much to us. It's actually one of the reasons, like, our original burgeoning friendship, aside from art, was about this game. It's how we really got to know each other, was playing this game online, and then we got to know each other better, and and all the art stuff came after the fact. So to see the end of this, because the first one came out in 2014, so the Destiny 1, so it's been like 12 years of this particular franchise, which, people had hoped would have been like, 12 more, because it's been one of those games that's been around for a while, and they were pushing for, hoping for a third installment. But it's this world that it pulled us in. It's a world that captivated us. It's a world that we argued about and had fun with and made excuses for, and we cheered it when it was great, and we forgave it when it was bad, and propped it up when it was mediocre as maybe it could be better. And at the end of the day, it's over. And
I think at a certain point, at least I'll speak for myself, but I think I had some addiction problems with this game. Like I said it earlier today, it's like I feel right now with the update and the thing, like I feel like a junkie who's being offered another cigarette or something like that. It's I don't know, man. I have the itch now that I know that it's coming to an end. Like, it's been on my radar ever since the announcement. And the funny thing is that, like, months before, like, ever since the content really dried out, you and I both kind of dropped the game. We were like, fine, I'm over this, let's move on.
I haven't played it in months. And months.
And then they said, well, now it's officially dead. We were both like, no! or at least
Yeah, I've actually logged in a couple like last 2 nights. I've like just see where it's at, and I get the new what's the word? I get it. The refresh, the update, the small like change of life type stuff, quality of life services will come out in the beginning of June. That'll be it. That'll be the last major update for the game, and then they walk away. I just wanted to see what it looks like beforehand. But as the beginning of the show said, like when stories end, how do we feel and how do we accompany this? And like sometimes it's with grief and anger and tears and frustration. Sometimes it's with joy because it's so good, and sometimes I let that dog die. Let's take the horse out behind the shed and shoot it.
Take it out of his misery. Yeah.
There have been some stories I was really enamored with, but the longer it went on, the less I cared. And there's some stuff I cared so much for that when I got more, I was angry because there's no way it could live up to the hype, both whether real or manufactured in my head. And that's a dangerous part of being a fan or a fanatic at that level.
What I find very interesting is how we get to this point, where we have such vivid emotions for something that's, fiction. It's not real. Like the game's not real. A story is not real. It's all in our heads, basically, and somehow we manage to bond ourselves with that so intensely that when a character dies, it feels like one of our friends dies, and when a story ends, it feels like part of our lives end. And I find that so incredibly interesting because, man, there is a lot going on in our brains.
There is a lot going on in our brains. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but in Dungeons and Dragons, they've done some studies in the past where it's the memories you create at the table. Well, it's a game, you are role-playing characters and doing these things, but the memories are located in the same parts of the brain as real memories. Like if you walk down the street and met someone, met and hung out, and had a friend, had a great conversation, got to know somebody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The memories that you make at the table are in the same parts of the brain. So the brain still feels that they are real because they are real memories. They are something you did with a person, real or not. And these characters mean so much. That's why a lot of people fall in love with these characters. There's a reason people cosplay as characters that they love because they mean so much. They connect to them. Maybe they see themselves. Well, maybe they see themselves. Maybe it's someone they idolize or wish they could be, or pick your reason. Characters and stories matter. They always have. There's sports come and go, things come and go, but earliest cavemans are still depicting stories, we live by these stories, whether they are written down, whether they are passed down verbally, whether they exist in our collective unconscious or just within our certain tribes of who we are as people. Stories matter. They always have. So yeah, we fall in love with this stuff. So when something like one of our beloved Destiny starts is gone, now I'm in the camp of good because they took my child. I feel like if you've ever seen The Godfather, after they sees his son does
what they've done to my boy.
And that's what I feel like they did to Destiny
Yeah.
over the course of the last couple of years. You milked it for profit. You stopped caring about the story, what makes the story special. And you keep throwing swill back at the audience, expecting them to pay for your luxury cars. So, and one level, good. You didn't deserve this beautiful child that we supported. You didn't deserve Destiny, not the devs, but the management that ran the team. So you don't deserve it. You don't get to have it anymore. I'm glad it's gone because I'm glad you can't hurt it anymore. So
it was a dead horse still kicking.
Right.
just some final spasms. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But there is a difference, or at least I feel like. Okay, let me rephrase that entirely.
By the way, I'm loving this tree that you drew here. I'm enamored by this skill set for this soft pastel style of the brushing and that you were doing.
I love doing trees. For some reason, there was something.
Yeah,
really,
I love trees as well. But this is really, I'm gonna go. I might just actually come back on my own and rewatch this just solo, just to watch the mechanics of it. So,
well, lucky you. The first bit is only 10 minutes long, so you don't have to watch the full episode for that. But
no, I'm not gonna watch this crap. Are you kidding me? No one listens to this shit. No, I'll go back. I'll find your original video on your YouTube channel. I'll just put that on.
I'll delete it. You'll have to watch this episode.
You're the worst.
My God. Anyway, well, I lost my train of thoughts there. What were we talking about?
Probably Destiny storytelling, losing it, gone, coming back.
That horror still kicking around, sure.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, like okay, I got it, eureka! Oh, that's a change. Last episode, I had to like edit in some crickets because I completely
Yeah, I
lost it.
remember. That was
But
pretty cool. That's funny.
yeah, so okay, what makes it so different for me between me having stopped playing and not caring about it anymore because it was dead anyway, and now hearing the official message that says, well, it's done. There, it feels so different because all that time we were still able to deny, that the thing was dead, and now we have officially heard that, it's really gone, it's really happening. There's nothing to negotiate about anymore, and I I've had that feeling with some books, like very rare. I think it was Golden Compass at the end, where it's like, no, I don't want to leave this world yet. No, don't leave me. Um, and a Dutch book series.
Right. I will. Here's the thing. I will not name the name of any living author that I've read currently because I do not want to, as come across as sour grapes or whatever. If I say something hereto unkind, so I will talk about TV shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And movies,
Okay.
but yeah.
I mean, I would. You know what? I would love to actually name the names of these books and these authors because I'm saying this in a very loving way. Like, that story.
If it's a positive thing, then sure, go to town.
Exactly.
By all means.
Yeah. But it's a weird. Okay. So, for my Dutch audience here, it was Wolf de Speurhond, which is basically like oh God, it was a German Shepherd who was a police dog and he solved crimes and murders, and it was a young adult Dutch series, and there were like 100,000 different novels of that, and I devoured it, and then it was done, and I was like, no, not Wolf. So anyway, that's a very long-winded story of me saying I really missed that series, and I think the point I was trying to make is that there are very few things that I feel so intensely about, when it ends, and it was kind of a surprise when I realized that I still have that feeling for Destiny, even though I thought I'd left it behind because who cared anyway at this point. It's kind of
We
weird.
have different levels of attachment to the game for sure. I love the game. I love the game because I love who I played with, and I love certain parts of the story. I've stood by the fact that the reason I loved the first Destiny 1, like I've talked to you in the past privately, but like and publicly, it's because it reminds me of the best parts of Star Wars. You have these people, these guardians who rise up literally from the dead to try to defend the solar system from dark forces of darkness. You are tabula rasa. You rise up as a blank slate. You are on Earth. This little bobbing little like floating thing called the Ghost resurrects you, and you have no memory, but you are resurrected to a broken world. It is Earth in the future, but it's decayed. It is in ruin. There's one last city that has people thriving because aliens have come. All variety of aliens have come and like have taken over our world because they are in the search for this. They want the big thing that gives us this magical power of being a guardian called the Traveler, the big orb that floats above our city. They want its power, and there's a level of when your agency is taken away because someone took what's yours. So as you play the game, you see the ruins of a human civilization, and you are fighting to bring back the goodness. You are fighting for the people of the city. You are fighting for just causes, and I loved that, because it's hope, because you can't hope is not hope when things are sunny and good. Hope is hope when things are bad, and you in the darkness you look for the light, and that's the theme of many great storytellings, to include the beginning of Destiny. But as the game went on, unfortunately, it really wanted to have Fortnite money. It started like putting more emoticons and had special skins and like funny dances and loser dances and floss dances and quirky weirdo shit. And as time went on, it just became a parody of itself, and it lost what made it special. Once in a while, one of the expansion stories are really good, but we start to lose this. We are fighting for hope. And we also, the character we play has stopped being the main character. We are watching other characters do things, and we are a vehicle in our own story. And that's when I really started to fall off with the game.
If you're enjoying this podcast and want to support what we do, head on over to patreon.com/sandybutchers. Members get early access to new content, and higher tier supporters can join the Mail Club, where I send out exclusive art loot, up to 4 times per year. It's a great way to get some unique physical goodies while helping keep the podcast going. Check it out at patreon.com/sandybutchers. And thanks for your support. Let's get back to the show. I talked about this yesterday with some friends with some friends of mine, and who I'm actually pretty sure are listening to the show right now. But we talked about knowing when it's enough, and we got there. Obviously, this conversation started at Destiny, but then at a certain point, we also talked about many books, like book series that went on and on and on, like a certain urban fantasy story that went on for years and years before, people were finally sort of like, oh, can we please just, kill the horse, and because it was a shadow of its former self, and we talked a little bit about what we would do if we were the author, and then I kind of thought to myself, I mean, I'm an author, and what if somebody asked me to write another 14 books of Bonds and Blood and Silver or related to that universe, and sure, if it earns me a lot of money, I get that at a certain point you're like, well, I want more money, but I like to believe. It's going to sound super cocky, but I like to believe that at a certain point I am able to say, no, I have enough money, or, I want to try something new. And I've seen this happen with my art all the time. Like when I get bored with something, I just go ahead and try something else. And I kind of believe that when it comes to money, I will still be able to make that decision. But there are so many IPs, both in the book world and in the game world and the movie world, that are just being repeated because there's money in there. And like, when do we start going back to the quality of things again? Like, when do we get the ending of a series, of a book series, or whatever, a story, because it was just good to end the story there, regardless of how much money it was still making.
There's a level of artistic integrity, which is, I'm not doing this for profit. If I get paid, great, and we've talked about this in the past. What's art for profit, art for art's sake, but even in storytelling, ideally, I'd love to tell a good story and get paid, but all my stories have an end, and I will never drag them on beyond where they're at. I am on the cusp. I have one more book to finish in my Shadow Master series, one more book to finish in my Hammer of Witches series, one, maybe two in my Technomancer series. It just depends on how. I don't think I can get to the ending I want to get to in this next book and make it feel fulfilling. And I'm afraid of like writing either too fast and making it feel unfulfilling as a final book, or too long and not hitting the notes the way I want to hit them and not telling a good story. So I might have to do this in 2 books, and I have to be smart about the writing. But regardless, I'm at the end. I could drag this on. And I've had people reach out to me like, hey, are you going to write like additional like stories and set in that universe? And I'm like, probably not. And that upset some of them. Like, well, but I love it. I'm like, I get that. And I thank you so much. I'm glad you love it. And I love telling it, but I don't want to just keep telling stories set in that same universe over and over and over and over, because like, that's for you. That's for you to create in your mind. Like my story is told. Like Salem's story is over. This is where it ends for him. And if it ever picks up again, it won't be with him. It'll be with something else. And I want that to have a sense of completion. And I hate when I read certain series that are going on for too long. I fall out of love. I mean, in book terms, I tend to tap out right around book 7 of any series. There are very few where I maintain past that. I mean, very few. And I know a couple of authors, and I know a lot of authors, but one of like my friend Robert Bevan, for example, he writes the Critical Failures books about these idiot chuckle fucks that get sucked into a knockoff Dungeons and Dragons world. And it's a comedy, and it's these idiots. And the reason I keep reading it is because this is not an epic saga of love and loss and forgiveness. No, these are morons doing moronic things, stuck in this fantasy realm, getting dumber, but more powerful. And the reason I keep reading past book 7 is because this is a flavor of a ice cream that I can keep eating, but there have been other series where the longer it goes on that and from the Big Six publishing, where I'm like, I'm done. I read right around book 6 or 7 and I'm good. I'm good. I don't need more, because unfortunately it starts becoming a caricature of itself. It's not fun anymore. It lost what made it special.
But how many people are still capable of saying that? And while I'm asking this, my next question to that is, does this or what does it say about us as people, as community, as cultures? Because I feel like we are losing, or maybe we already have lost our ability to say goodbye to things.
I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, it feels like it sometimes. I'm not discounting you by anything, but I'm just pondering it. Some things I think we look forward to saying goodbye to, or
But generally, like, I mean, even when we look at our fellow human beings, like, we want to grow as old as possible. And I know I'm like entering philosophical terrain here, but
sure.
we all want to become 100. We want to become as old as we can possibly get. But does anyone consider the quality of life you have at a certain age? Like, why can't we, let people go?
Oh, if I am old but spry and I have like my faculties and I have mobility, then keep on aging. But if I start to but like a person, like a story, if it's aged to the point where it's immobile, it doesn't have its faculties left, it is in a miserable existence, and it's just limping along because yeah, that's kind of doesn't do it for me. Like, so because the author is dead, there's this one series that I grew up reading called Guardians of the Flame. It was weird enough. It was this college. It was written back in the early '80s. The big first book, and the Sleeping Dragon. It's college kids playing a knockoff Dungeons and Dragons game. See where this is going, and they get sent in this world. But it was set in such a realistic way. Like, these people were like, they're stuck in this world, and bad things can happen very quickly. And I grew to love these characters so much that, like, I felt like they were people, that I knew them. But right around by book 5 or 6, when it starts to reach a certain point and certain events happen, that, like, as much as I love this over and over, I stopped caring about the world, and it's sad. And I'll go reread books 1 through 5 over and over and over. In fact, I have many times. I actually have several copies just in case, because they're such old paperbacks that if they disintegrate, I have got backups. Because I love them that much, and they were such a part of me. But I don't want to read past book 5 anymore because I don't enjoy it. It's not. It lost that magic. It lost that spark. And if you don't have a definitive end to your story, I believe everybody writing a story, creating a story, whatever, know how it ends before you even put the first word down.
Which brings me back to Bungie for a second, because I mean, you and I followed every Vidoc they launched. They slingshot into the world like, we'll tell you everything about this new DLC that we have, this new campaign, blah blah blah. And then at a certain point they said, well, we know where the story is going to end, and then we know how we can move onward from that in a potential Destiny 3, blah 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 blah. I guess none of that ever came to fruition.
I don't believe it.
Because
exactly. I don't believe it. I think that's a lie. That's a through and through lie. Like, I don't believe them for one iota. I think one writer might have had an end, but that got usurped for the sake of, like, but we need to.
Sure, that guy left the company like years ago.
Right. Or we need to prove to Sony that we're worth this 3 point whatever $billion acquisition, and we're the king of live service. Sorry, Bungie, but the shade is shade, and everybody's talking shit. Well, you didn't know where the story ended, and you really overlooked the greatest mysteries of the game for the sake of, I don't know why. I can't speak to that. I can only speculate. And so any creative should start with, I know how it ends, and work towards that. And sometimes, yes, the money gets good, and the powers that be that are putting your product out, book, TV show, movie, game, whatever, say, no, we want more. Well, then let me write a spiritual sequel. Let this particular thing end, and let me start the new thing that will hook the audience. From the makers of blank comes this next thing that you're going to like, because it's got the same heart to it. Or what's worse is, like, when something does continue that was never meant to continue, because I'll say this, I've talked about in the past, Arcane, I love that first season so much of that show, that when the second season rolled around, I was just heartbroken how piss poor it became. It had emotion, it had great art, it had the same music, it just didn't have the story. The story and the heart that behind the hand that created that story were just gone. They're bereft. They, like, you took my focal point of the sisters and made them like almost side characters in their own story, and focused on the wrong people for too long. And it just, you took what made it special, and you kind of shit the bed. And sorry.
For this reason, I am very interested to see how this, first of all, The Witcher 4 is going to develop. I mean, and I know you and I have some different opinions about it, but I'm also very much keeping an eye on that little side project. Wild
Blood of the
Wolves, whatever,
Dawnwalker
like
or
the,
whatever, something like that.
yeah, Blood of the Dawnwalker from the little studio that is basically founded by some of the guys who worked on Witcher 3. They now have their own studio, and they developed Blood of Dawnwalker. And when I look at any of the material that they have so far released, I am seeing the exact same feelings that I had in The Witcher 3. So in that way, I'm super hopeful, like, this can potentially be so incredibly cool, I would do anything to play The Witcher 3 for the first time again. So this game might potentially, dig into those feelings, even though it's not The Witcher. But, if those feelings are the same, then, oh man, I'm ready for that.
And that's where, I mean, you and I, we are in agreements, but we also disagree on certain fundamental levels. Like I am excited to see what that Dawnwalker game can be. My problem is it looks, no disrespect to anybody listening, it looks visually at this moment like any other generic fantasy third-person game where a character walks with sword on the back and interacts, and the town looks like a generic fantasy town.
Ooh, when is the last update you've seen, though?
I don't know. It doesn't look it looks generic. It looks like every other game about a fantasy town where the model guys have a blank face and they stare at you, where they lip sync badly to whatever the thing is that they're trying.
I had that with Kingdom Come Deliverance. I could not deal with how they forgot their eyebrows.
Right. I mean, but I've seen, like, obviously The Witcher, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, even the new Fable game, the character walking with sword on the back. I've seen this so many times. It's like a third person shooter where, like, over the shoulder shooter, like we've all played Gears of War. It's one of the reasons I like first person, like why I like the Bungie game, because like I don't need to see, I just need the gun in the hand. I don't need, it just makes things just slightly different enough. And the visual language is not speaking to me. Now I'm hoping the story does. I might be able to get past the visual language, but as of right now, from a distance, it just looks like, even though they're people from The Witcher, and I not to mean this as disrespect, it looks like, hey, did you see The Witcher? So did we. We're gonna do something.
Yeah, and that can go two ways. Like there can be
right.
people who are absolutely happy about that. There can also be people who are like, I've seen this before. It was The Witcher 3. But I feel like we've digressed a little bit. Let's go back to this, how we opened this with this whole stages of grief.
Yeah, sure.
Because I find it very interesting. Like I said before, like I am curious. What was a story for you that really dragged you through all those feelings?
Why don't you start with yourself? Because I feel a little flat-footed here. Because I usually get stuck at anger.
No, go ahead. Talk to me about that.
Well, because because I love, how much I love stories. I was talking to someone over this weekend. I was at a barbecue and I was talking to this woman over. She's like, I talk about like The Facts of Life. It's an American television show. She's like, I'm like, yeah, I watch The Facts of Life. She's like, yeah, but you're a guy. I'm like, stories are stories. I don't care. I like a good story. I like good stories. So when things end, sometimes they end badly. Sometimes they end well. Like, I love the beginning of True Blood. I thought it ended very the quality went down and down. Supernatural started great. The quality does. I'm sorry, people out there who love Dean and Sam, but like that, you cannot sit there and tell me to straight face that the back 8 years were as good as the first 5. You can't. It's not. It's just not. And so you watch it out of habit. You consume this product out of habit. So I get angry that the quality dips. But again, it's like 15. Some of these things last for so long. Of course, the quality is going to dip. It's keeping things fresh and new and changed. But you should have walked away at year 5. But the money's too good. So I understand why you stayed.
Okay, so I had this with, we've talked about this show before, it's a series called Sanctuary. And it's 4 seasons, and I think it was always, okay, the way this was all written, there's no other way than, understand that this series was made to be 4 seasons long. I don't believe they would have made another season even if they could. So it really is a rounded off story. It's a perfect ending, but man, did I really, I went to Google to find, is there going to be a season 5? What is going to happen with these loose ends? What am I going to do now? I have no series. It was awful. But at the same time, and this is really, I went through all the stages, and obviously I ended up with the acceptance because of what else is there to do. But it took me a while before I understood, you know what? This ending was bloody perfect. Because it could very much be the beginning of something new, but it's not. So it leaves everything to your own imagination. And I thought that was so well done, but I think it took me like a couple of months before, that feeling kicked in. And I remember it's the same friends that I mentioned earlier today, and she said, I read a book, I finished it, and I could not read a single book for like 3 or 6 months. Like I was not ready to start the next adventure because I was so blown away by that ending. I could not pick up a single book. So
That's good.
yeah, but also
What was that book? Shit, I want to know what that is.
yeah, well, please, when if you're listening, please drop it in the comments which book that was, because I think I forgot to ask yesterday, but we're both kind of curious.
Yeah, and also now that the hype is so real that if I ever read the book and it doesn't do that to me, I'm coming for you. Just that's
But
it.
this happens to you all the time. Like every time people are like, "This is really awesome," and you're gonna be like, "I'm so disappointed."
Despite being a naturally like untrusting person, when I like somebody, I trust them. So like I listen, like I said, like you tell me this is gonna be amazing, I will listen to you, and then I realize a lot of you are stupid.
I will not mention Frankenstein again.
No, yeah, God,
We've talked about this.
Yeah. But okay, so when certain things like I latch onto them because they speak to me, or it's the right message or whatever. Who knows why you latch onto it? It's something of quality, or I'll love something that's actually of power and importance, and I'll also love Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters because it's dumb fun. But so here's an example. I went through all the stages of grief. It's a book series, and oddly enough, it's like before I ever knew, I do know this author. Before I ever knew this author, I was just a fan of his work. Drew Hayes, his Superpowered series is one of the ones he's more, he's known for than in the indie pub community, and it helped build up his career. It is set in a superhero-like universe where they are normal people, there are supers, and there's people called powards. They are supers who can't control their power, and they're seen as second-class citizens. In fact, because let's say you have the power of teleportation, but it only happens when you sneeze, and you can't control your sneeze, and you can't control where you go. You could be dangerous. What if you accidentally sucked a kid along with you? You took something. What if you every once in a while you explode and can you be around other people? So you're actually a danger to society if you can't control your power. So this book posits where heroes are in the world, but not any superhero can be a hero. They have to go through training. Oddly enough, really, it's like My Hero Academia, and this came out just before that. So it's kind of like these deep impact Armageddon situations, but it follows these kids who went through an experimental program, these powers to become supers. They have control over their powers for the first time in their life, but as teenagers, they've had miserable lives. Like the one girl's a psychic, and her power's been turned on since the day she was born. She's been hearing everything all at once. Her mind, she's actually gone almost crazy. The one girl whose power was she could fly, but only when she was happy. So when she got too happy, she would fly. But then when she was sad, she'd fall and hurt herself. So imagine that. Every time you felt joy, it always came with pain. The one boy whose power is luck, but he's like the lone survivor of a car crash since he was a baby. The one kid who's he absorbs all energy, but what if he's afraid to go near, he can't control it. So if he goes by a hospital and it takes all the power of a hospital, people die who are on life support. So that's the thing. So that's the gravitas that Drew brings to this book series, but it posits these kids going through 4 years of training at college, and they grow and become better, and they live and they love and they lost. It's a little slice of life with a deep story, and there's actual plot, and there's really cool surprise moments and building moments and character moments. So much so that I legitimately have fallen in love with these characters as characters, and the 4 years tell a complete story. And it's not enough for me. Like, but what happens after? He gives a little postscript kind of thing but I want what about their intern years? What about the years where they were training? What about the years they do that? Like, I want that. So over the years, I actually get to meet Drew Hayes. I'm on a podcast. We get to know each other, and I get to go to. He invite him and some of the other people in the Authors and Dragons community. Before I was ever with them, I was a fan, so they invite me to one of their conventions. I get to go. I get to meet them in person. I'm trying not to fanboy out and failing miserably sometimes. I'm trying not to because I want more. Like I'm angry. There's not more. I'm bargaining for, I literally, it's like, hey, hey, Drew, so what happened? Can we get some more of cause he's working on other things. He's like, and he doesn't like to go backwards. So it's like, no one wants him. Like, no, they do. And I have to accept that the story is over. So I revisit it from time to time. I've gotten other people hooked on this story. It fills me with joy every time someone listens to the audiobooks or reads the books and gets to feel what I feel, because there've been very few people I've turned on to that particular series who felt slighted. It's one of his earlier works, so it's a little rougher, but the story and the people and the characters and the messages, everything come through in such a way that I have love it. And I've gone through all the stages once it was over, because I'm like, I want more. Why can't I have more? Damn it.
Yeah. Hearing you talk about this, I reminded myself of the Deus Ex franchise. And that's now more than 10 years ago, I think, since the last game or the last whatever part of that IP, whether it's book form, comic form, whatever. Like, they had the universe and they killed it, and I'm still mad about that, and I'm still sad. Like, I think I played that game, the last one, like Mankind Divided, at least once per year. I'm hesitant to say twice per year, but I still play it on a sort of routine. I just cannot let go of that game. It is so good, and these characters are so freaking amazing, and the world is so beautiful but horrible at the same time. It's I kind of love it when the story does that to me. At the same time, I really hate it when the story does that to me, because it messes up my emotions. Really.
Well, but that's what it wants. I want to do that when even in my own stories. Like people someone stopped me over this weekend. I was at a barbecue and they said, "Hey, I started reading your Hammer of Witches books." I'm like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "I really enjoy how this is written so far. I'm really interested in this and the characters." Da da da. I'm like, "How far have you gotten?" She tells me, I'm like, "Okay, cool." And she's like, "You're not gonna make me sad, are you?" I'm like, "Just make sure when you reach a certain point, I'm not around you, because." That's a series I want you. I'm trying to build up these characters as much as I love you. And then I am intentionally trying to punch you right in the heart afterwards, because I love that in a good story. And I want that in certain moments, in certain series, whether that's a book, show, movie. Like, there's been a few books that have really touched me in that way. Robin Hobb's Farseer originally was a Farseer trilogy. Then it turned into, I never finished the third trilogy because it turned into more. But that first trilogy broke me. It elevated my mind about what storytelling could be. You're transitioning from obviously I love The Hobbit, and I grew up with a lot of fantasy stuff like that, and a lot of the Dragonlance books we all read as kids and got bigger. And
Dragonlance.
Well, it's one of those, but you go back to when you're older, you're like, this is not good. This is bad. It's good for the young adult I was when I was reading it, and the Dungeons and Dragons campaign stuff, but it's not great.
I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to pick up those books.
I think I
was 21 when I read my first Dragonlance. So that's not too long ago. That's 15 years. Sorry, I lied.
You will.
17 years ago.
I have a whole box of the old Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms books and things like that. That they were part of my brain, but unfortunately, it's a lot like my love of 80s and 90s cartoons that I grew up with, because in my mind, they're crystal clear HD 4K perfect examples of storytelling. When I go back and rewatch, I'm like, ooh,
that's not HD.
That is rough. It's bad voice acting. It's
what's
good.
the name of the guy with the hourglass eyes again?
Raceland.
There you go. I had a huge crush on that guy.
Everybody did. He is the, listen, he's emo's first boy crush. Everybody, even whether that's a guy who's just, I just that guy's so cool and edgy, cool. And for the girls, oh, he's so broken.
You know what? I kind of feel normal now. So thank you.
Yeah, you're supposed to love Raceland, because it's he's the Lestat, he's the dark broody one. He's the he's the crow for the Destiny fans. He's this.
I'm gonna miss him so much.
He is the edge. He is the wounded soul who
seeks redemption,
does bad things, but maybe they have a good heart, but maybe they don't. I can fix them. Blah 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 blah.
The characters you hate the most.
And
yes.
it is. Yeah. I mean, I love Raceland too, but it's the. If you go back and reread some of those, the stories are good. The writing is not as good as you remember it to be. And that's no shade against Weiss and Hickman. They wrote at the time when they were doing them, and they got better. Obviously, we all get better as the year goes on. But this is middle school me and early high school me loved those books. And then like adult me went back and like, okay,
You know what?
I appreciate them for what they
I
were.
had that today, actually. I got back edits for the back blurb of the Dutch translation of my book. And I think I mailed that text like, I think it was more than a year ago. And she gave her edits, and I read through them and was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh my God, how was I ever, how did I ever send this in? And I mean, we moved on 1 year, and I do feel like I've learned a lot in a year. We get better in a year. Thank God we do.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to all of us. Oh man, there are some stories that like, I don't know. They live better in antiquity and in my memory than they do in the reality. Because when I try to revisit them, and some stories I love so much that like even like I said, I mentioned Arcane, but there was another one. There was a show that I instantly fell in love with. Never read the book. It was Carnival Row. I love that first season so much, almost for the same reasons I loved Arcane. And they have very similar themes. And like Arcane, the season 2, when it was clearly there wasn't going to be a season 3, they tried to cram in so much stuff, and like everything happens so fast, and like the chewy, mouthy, girthy storytelling that was in season 1 felt thin and watered down and diluted by season 2, and it went through the motions, and it broke me because it wasn't what season 1 was, and that hurts, like, and it's not, I don't blame the actors, I don't blame the writers per se. I mean, I want to, it'd be easy because I'm angry, but it's also like, hey, if there's not gonna be season 3 because of whatever reason, if you want to finish your story, then you got to finish your story. And like, you got sets built, you got things to do, you got actors to pay, you got to get the stuff done. I get it. Some people like, well, let it continue in books or comics or things like that. And some things I don't want.
I mean, this is literally what's happening with the Firefly franchise right
now.
I mean, that's
and Buffy and a few other things too. Like, but that's the thing is like, so again, I love Star Wars because it's the first thing I ever saw in the theater. Like I was like 1977. My granddad wanted to see it, so he took like 2.5-year-old me, to see because I needed an excuse to go see Star Wars. Right?
Those must have been great memories.
It is. Well, it's one of my earliest. I have a few early memories. I mean,
you
I'm
actually
like
remember
almost,
it? Wow.
Oh, because I remember at this age, but I remember the sound, the dark theater, and that blah, 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 like the horns coming into the music and the scroll and like you see, the starship, the shooting, the stormtrooper, like and then this Black Knight showing up. Because like even as a child, you can recognize like, oh, Darth Vader's a Black Knight. Got it. He's a Black Knight, and there's these stormtroopers are shooting. And then you kind of you tune in and out, and then there's a cool guy with a lightsaber, and like, oh my God, I want that, And then, but again, back in that era, movies didn't go away and come back on streaming. They just come back to theaters over and over and over and over. I went to the theater and saw Star Wars every single chance. My parents, like my mom would like just take me. Anybody like, I'm gonna go see Star Wars. That was the only thing I ever wanted to see ever. Until Empire Strikes came, and then I'm like, I want to see that too, but as I got older, I realized that my love for that is it's set in it's a great universe, but it is a bad universe too. It is a great fairy tale in cyber sci-fi space opera trappings, but it is, and this is no disrespect to anybody who loves Star Wars, I do not find the world to be that. It's not Star Trek. The universe feels more thin than it does flush. Some of the books try to fix that, and some of those books back in the day were kind of good, and some of them were definitely fan fiction, when I see the same 8 aliens, it's like early Star Trek, but as Star Trek went on and got bigger and expanded, they leaned on, the humanity, the what makes a person, these moral conundrums,
the moral questions. Yeah.
Right. And Star Wars could have done that, but didn't. But the only thing but what Star Wars always had was the technological next to the mystical. When you have, a lightsaber and a blaster, you have space armor and a spaceship, but this mystic connection to something bigger than the technology. That is what Star Wars always had, and it always brings people back. I'm sorry, it's not always about Jedi and Sith and lightsabers. However, it's not about your aliens. And it's not about...
It's space magic.
Yeah, it's your space magic. It's your space magic and really cool vehicles, and like that is what Star Wars has always had above other franchises in that capacity. And so every time there's a story being told that's not about space magic and cool this is about the political underheavings of like, I'm asleep. I'm asleep. It's yeah. And that's what Destiny brought me.
Just let me get lost in the fantasy. Don't turn a fantasy world into something realistic, please.
Space fantasy. So, and then some of the animated, like, the Clone Wars, like, built off the back of that. And there were some of these other animated projects that built off the space fantasy that really made Star Wars special. Not the sci-fi, not even the space opera, but the space fantasy is what made it special. And when it does that, that's when I was always the happiest. And that's one of the reasons I bring it back to the beginning when we was talking about Destiny. That's what pulled me into that world, because it is, yes, your guardian, they have a gun, they have got grenades, but they are wearing space armor, and there's space fantasy, and there's a mystic connection to this traveler, and these paracausal beings of energy and light and darkness set juxtaposed next to the technologically advanced and the aged technology of a broken former golden age. It's beautiful. And it's gone. I'm still wrapping my head around it.
Yeah. So, okay, if I ask you now, here on the spot,
yep.
would you want a Destiny 3?
Yes.
Would you want a Destiny 3 made by Bungie?
No.
Elaborate.
Not at all. Not the Bungie that exists now. Again, I'm not talking about the developers. I am not talking about, mostly not about the writers. The writers are being paid to write what the people above them want. They might pitch some ideas, but they're pitching stories, and this is what we can develop towards X, Y, and Z. But if you grab me a handful of the core developers and a handful of the core writers and set them in their own studio and give them some resources and say, you make it. This is not about, we're trying to make a live service game. This is not about selling skins and weapon skins and adventure packs and blah, blah, and Pokemon booster card like bullshit. This is about telling a new story, expanding beyond what we did before, and really diving into the mysteries, the unexplained mysteries that we
write something that makes me go through all those emotions again if you tell me you would finish it again.
but like most good stories should be, we've got to go from the light, dive into the darkness to find the light again. And that is, do that, and I will throw all my money at you. But if you keep doing this, spinning your wheels, like this dumb crap, I'm out, and yeah, I would love it, but not from this current model, and again, I'm not being mean to the devs, except for the devs who only mine Destiny 1 content. If you just take something that's Destiny 1 and then put a coat of paint on it or reverse it, then fuck you.
Is that the devs, or is that higher up saying, grab the stuff from D1? No. I
don't know. I do not know. I can speak to this in such generic platitudes because I'm not calling any one person out. The person, sometimes you take an old idea and make it new again. But every time Destiny 2 try to go forward, they grab something from Destiny 1 and repackage it as they recycled it. And that is what angers me, because all we've asked you for is like not new. Yes, we've asked for new stuff and new maps and new this. And yes, we are a loudmouth bunch of children, but every time we ask you for anything, the response is, hey, remember the thing you loved before when we're going back to the moon? Do you remember this? We're going back to the Tangled Shore. Remember we're going this? We content vault. We're going back to the thing we vaulted. Hey, remember this gun you loved before? We're bringing it back. Like, I so don't care about that. And every time there's a cool chance to take a step forward, he's still kind of fumbled the ball. So yes, I don't want this current team at all. How about you? Do you want a Destiny 3?
Of course I want a Destiny 3. Yeah.
And do you want it from this version of Bungie?
Yes and no. Ask me again in a week. Like right now, I'm very high on copium, saying, you know what, any form of Destiny 3 will make me happy. But in a week's time, when I've reached my acceptance, I will probably say, if it's going to be the kind of slop that D2 turned into in the end, then I'll pass. Thank you. Sell the IP to someone else. But yeah. I think at this point, if anyone has been listening to the whole episode, we've kind of given you like this golden ticket to your like best-selling story. Like if you follow everything that we said, it works. Like, from
but by that nature, why aren't we best-selling? All so it's there's always a level of like, Production, marketing, luck.
Of course. But I mean, the formula is here. So listen to our wisdom, take it to heart, and go out and create and all that kind of stuff. Our question this week is obviously, which book, story, game, movie, whatever made you experience all the stages of grief, and maybe you are still in denial about? Let us know in the comments. Anything to add?
No, great episode. Good talk.
You want to do the outro? You
Nope.
want to do the plug?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, well, I'll do the plug then. If you've enjoyed the episode so far, go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to hear us, what's the word? Complain, banter, joke around, be serious, and generally just chat about these kinds of subjects, go ahead and follow and subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening on Spotify, follow us there. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me, Gib.
Anytime, dude. Anytime.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.